The Philippines is a presidential, representative, and democratic republic with a multi-party system. The president is the head of the government, the head of the state, and the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. The president of the Philippines is chosen by a direct popular vote for a 6-year term. He is only allowed to serve one term and is not eligible for re-election. The vice president is the second highest official. The legislature of the Philippines is a bicameral Congress comprised of a Senate and a House of Representatives, while the United Kingdom is a constitutional monarchy with a parliamentary democracy. This implies that while a monarch is the head of a state, in this example, Queen Elizabeth II, she is not the head of the government. She does not get to make the majority of choices on how the government is run. It is the responsibility of the Prime Minister. Who is the Prime Minister? The Prime Minister is the leader of his party, the head of the government, and a member of House of Commons. He appoints cabinet ministers, including the Foreign, Home, Defense Secretaries, as well as the Chancellor of the Exchequer. He makes a number of recommendations to the monarch. The cabinet makes decisions on how new policies, policy execution, and the operation of various government ministries. The English monarchy once wielded unlimited authority, but that was a long time ago, nearly 800 years. The Magna Carta, often known as the Great Charter, celebrated its 800th anniversary in 2015. In 1215, this text outlined King John of England's and the ruling class rights and obligations. The Magna Carta is often considered as the world's earliest assertion of citizen rights. The Bill of Rights of 1689, which is still in force, restricts the Crown's authority and establishes the rights of Parliament as well as the regulations for free speech in Parliament. The demand for frequent elections to Parliament and the ability to petition the King without fear of retaliation.
Hello to anyone who's watching this video. So for this part, we're going to talk about the government of the Philippines and the United Kingdom, their form of government, how their government works, and the similarities and differences between the two. So first, we're going to dig into the government of the United Kingdom. So this country is ruled with the combination of parliamentary system, unitary state, and constitutional monarchy. So who runs the government and how it works? In the British government, the Prime Minister leads the government with the help of the cabinet and ministers. The government is the people who are responsible for running the country and managing things, set taxes, handles the public money and where to spend it, and decide how to deliver public services such as National Health Service, the police and armed forces, welfare benefits, and energy supply. Next, we're going to talk about the parliament. Parliament is a separate body from the government. It raises the concern of the people to the government, and the government cannot make new laws or raise taxes without the parliament's go signal. So what does the parliament do? Their job is to look at what the government is doing, their plans, and if they're doing their job efficiently. They are like the representatives of the people that make sure that the government is being fair and just, transparent, and accountable for what they do. The parliament is separated into two houses. First is the House of Commons, wherein the people who have been elected works as members of the parliament for the next 5 years. The second one is the House of the Lords, whose members are appointed and being seated for life. Their positions are inherited from their families, and their qualifications are from their achievements and experiences. So moving on, we're gonna talk about the Philippine government. Philippines is a republic governed with a presidential system. So who runs the government and how it works? The Philippines is headed by a president along with the three branches. The separation of powers wherein legislation is on Congress. They are tasked to make, repeal, and alter laws, execution and enforcing laws to the executive, and settlement of legal matters to the judiciary. The legislation is divided into two, the upper house and the lower house. The upper house consisting of 24 senators and the lower house with 250 members from provinces, cities, and municipalities, and representatives from party lists. The executive branch is composed of the president and the vice president, the cabinet, the executive departments, independent agencies, boards, commissions, and committees. Supreme Court and lower courts hold the judiciary branch. The difference between the government of these two is the distribution of powers. The parliament is the supreme body in UK and government is a separate entity. Philippines, the powers are equally distributed to its three branches. In terms of leadership, United Kingdom is headed by a Queen's appointee, a Prime Minister, and the Philippines is headed by a President, which is elected to its post, and royalties do not exist in the Philippines. The similarities in these countries are being seen in terms of the functions of the executive departments and agencies. Both countries have a particular department and agencies that deals with a specific matter, and both countries appoints the heads of these institutions. Civil services for the people are the same as well. The legislation process is also relative to each other.
For the economy, the Philippines and the United Kingdom are both practicing the same type of economic system, which is the mixed economy. A mixed economy is a type of economic system that consists of both private and government-owned entities. The Philippines are considered as a newly industrialized economy and emerging market because it is transitioning from an agricultural-based economy to the services sector and manufacturing of goods. As we all know, due to our terrain and tropical climate condition, we are known to be an agricultural country, and some of our major agricultural products are rice, coconuts, corn, sugarcane, bananas, pineapples, and mangoes. On the other hand, United Kingdom's main contributors to their GDP are services, manufacturing, construction, and tourism. Despite having the same type of economic system, there is still a huge difference between the economy of the said countries. There are many economic indicators to determine a country's economic condition, and some of it are the gross domestic product or GDP, unemployed population, the imports and exports, consumers price index or CPI, and national debt. But I will focus in terms of the GDP of both countries for the year 2020. The annual gross domestic product of the Philippines was 361 billion US dollars with a GDP per capita of 3,000 US dollars compared to 2.7 trillion of the United Kingdom with a GDP per capita of 40,000 US dollars. It is very evident how big the gap is between the Philippines and the United Kingdom in terms of economy. That is why last 2020, the Philippines placed at the 34th spot, while the United Kingdom placed at the 5th spot among the 213 countries with the highest GDP rating. And according to the United Nations Human Development Report 2020, Philippines are considered as a developing country, while the United Kingdom are considered as a developed country.
The researchers came up with the decisions to make a comparison between the Philippines and the United Kingdom in terms of politics, government, and economy, to discern distinctions between the two countries considering their crucial disparity. Philippines being a third world country and United Kingdom being a first world country, the systemic polarity between the two leads the researchers to a more diverse and pragmatic point of view. Also, the bilateral ties between the two countries remain firm and indestructible given the fact and the United Kingdom is the biggest European country investor of the Philippines. In conclusion, the researchers deduced the domino effects of political stability on a country's economic prosperity.